What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to JJD TV. My name is Josh, and we're sorry about the stream that was going on because, we were trying to go live for you guys. See a fun little chat. Didn't work out. Couldn't figure out the audio situation, so we turned it into a video. We adjusted on the fly. That was good, but we're joined with Steven here. He's a Manchester City fan channel, Esteemed Kompany. Steven, for the second time, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, it's a shame that no one's ever going to hear all those pearls of wisdom I was giving as the audio was crunchy on the live stream. But yeah, I run a Manchester City fan channel, a terrible pun based on Vincent Kompany in Esteemed Kompany, Esteemed Kompany UK. And yeah, I've been a City fan all my life. I'm over in Manchester in England, and I'm looking forward to this game. It's going to be interesting. It's a game with a bit of an edge to it, I reckon, for many reasons, and I can't wait for it. I genuinely can't wait, mate.
Yeah, I think there's a couple under the table kind of stories there with Gundogan returning, of course, Sancho returning to his former club as well, and of course the links linking Holland to City. I mean, it's something that's going to make you want to lick your lips and watch the game, and I'm pretty excited for it.
Yeah, no, to be honest as well, I hate these little stories like when a player's linked to a club or when a former player returns to the club. And it's probably why I'll be nervous if Sancho's involved in the second leg. But I always feel like football finds a way to find these little moments where, for example, I wouldn't be surprised if Haaland scores simply because he's Haaland and also because of those links. It feels inevitable, and I've grown up watching Man City. These things happen to City. I don't think we're very good these days, but these things still happen to City. We're the kind of club that a striker hasn't scored in 400 days, and then they scored their first goal against City, even though it's a team at the bottom of the league or something like that. So, so the fact that the Haaland link is there, the fact that Gundogan play for Dortmund, these things make me a little bit apprehensive. But at the same time, that's just 30 years of supporting Man City. I shouldn't be nervous given everything, because City are a very good team these days. Even with our Champions League record, we're still a very good team, so I have to feel confident.
Yeah, and taking some of the wisdom that you put on stream that no one will ever know, but talking about some of the times that you guys have, unfortunately for you guys, bottled it in the Champions League is kind of the one thing that I think us Dortmund fans are kind of holding on for, the fact that as great as a team you guys have had over the years, and like you said with them, like even taking on Monaco, Liverpool, Tottenham, especially Lyon, you guys, in my opinion, like you said, were the favorites in each one of those ties, and just what current point weren't able to get it over the line, which is, I guess, something that we can kind of take going into this match and hope some kind of miracle can happen and Erling Haaland can put a little bit of magic going for there.
Yeah, it's a rep we've earned as Champions League bottlers, and it's not unfair. I wish it wasn't true, but it does hang over Manchester City fans. It does hang over Pep. He's been thinking about it. It does hang over us as a club. I do think eventually City will take that step and win it. Not I don't know when it'll happen, but it's probably inevitable because the funds we've got and the organisation we've got and the players we've got. It might take 20 years from now. I don't know, but eventually Man City, we're here to stay at the top now. I think it's pretty obvious our City's own is, serious business, and it's very much a long-term project. So when you've got that much know-how and that much money, I guess, and that many brilliant players, eventually City will get there. I'm hoping it's sooner rather than later, because it has been painful watching us go out to teams that we should be beating. Like Lyon, Spurs, we were definitely better than them. I know City weren't quite the finished product when we played Monaco, but we still felt like we should have gone through that day. And to be honest, as I said, even at a stretch, City were in better form than Liverpool when they knocked us out. And that was Liverpool, so it was never going to be easy, and it is their cup competition. But there's always been a tinge of frustration every time City went out of this competition. Even back when we were in the semi-finals of the Champions League against Real Madrid under Pellegrini, we didn't have a single shot on target for 180 minutes. It was pathetic. So it's one of those things where there's definitely unfinished business in this competition, and Dortmund are the kind of side that City should be beating based on form, really. That's no disrespect to Dortmund. I think you'd probably admit that yourself. And that's why I guess City fans are a little bit like, oh, we've been here before, and it feels familiar. It feels like the Tottenham game, the Monaco game, the Lyon game. So it's definitely got an edge to it, and there's nothing to fear for Dortmund. While at the same time, there's loads to fear. There's plenty of reasons for Dortmund to feel confident, I would say.
Yeah, and you made a great point with that Real Madrid clash. Is when I remember watching back on it, I just felt like the team was just satisfied that they finally got over that bump to get to the semis, and then, like you said, a very lackluster couple performances where it was really like it just seemed like Madrid was just cruising in a relatively close two ties, but cruising to the final. But yeah, I mean, it's going to be interesting, and hopefully Dortmund can look at that Lyon performance. But the biggest thing for you guys is that your defense, in my opinion, is the strongest I've seen it in probably a decade. Just, you guys have really figured it out at the back, and I think that's helping you guys going forward as well.
Yeah, there's something that I don't know what I mean. It's easy to put it down to one factor, and maybe this is the case, but that seems like an oversimplification. I'm not sure if it is simple as Ruben Diaz arriving, but either way, I do think it's a combination of that and Guardiola kind of going a little bit back to this whole kind of invert midfield to support the number 6. So we've got, I don't know, be it Cancelo or Walker or Zinchenko, someone's usually stepping in alongside Rodri or Fernandinho there. And we look a lot less susceptible to counter-attacks where we seem to be a lot better organised. And of course, obviously that Pep's the king of organisation, but I think Ruben Diaz's presence, he seems transformational because, I mean, some players are born with that natural charisma and that natural organisation, just as much as their talent can be quite as important as well. You have to have the respect and I guess the ear of your colleagues. And even though Vincent Kompany had that, I guess there's no denying that. I do wonder if there's almost like, there's definitely not more respect for Ruben Diaz because you can't get more respect in football than Vincent Kompany, because everyone in football loves Vincent Kompany, because he's seen genuinely throughout the game as just inspirational. But I do wonder if Ruben Diaz, for whatever reason, has got through to certain players more. Like I would very much guess that John Stones wasn't exactly best mates with Vincent Kompany because they're very different kind of people. And where it seems when you look at John Stones and Ruben Diaz, they're the same age roughly. There's a couple of years between them. They seem very similar, kind of like. You seem like they could be friends more, where Vincent Kompany was like, I think Michael Richards once described Vincent Kompany as like the head teacher when he walks into a room and everyone behaved. Whereas I never got the sense that that's great and all, but you're definitely not going to be like mates, if that makes sense. I felt like Kompany was more of a boss than a colleague, and that was brilliant because he was obviously great for us. But I do wonder if someone like Ruben Diaz has connected on on a similar age mentality level to the likes of Zinchenko and Cancelo and John Stones and Laporte, while also having that senior leadership. But he's their age and they're one of them, so to speak. So I think Ruben Diaz, he's been absolutely brilliant. And then of course, second season, Cancelo and Rodri being more settled, it's definitely helped defense as well. And Zinchenko finally in that form again of he's shown he's capable in the past. City have just found a renewed energy, and Ruben Diaz, I have to give him so much credit because you can just see the impact he's had on the colleagues around him.
Yeah, and looking from the outside in, I mean, I would pin it on Diaz, and unlike Kompany, if they see John Stones dancing around the locker room, Diaz is right there beside him. So that's something you gotta take a look in for. But yeah, it's cool. So I have the tough task today to come up with a reason why some of the Dortmund players are going to break into this combined 11. So I guess without further ado, Steven, do you want to come up with a formation? I was thinking 4-2-3-1. I don't know if you have a different one in mind. It could be 4-3-3, or if you didn't have any preference.
We could play a 4-2-3-1, but I'd be playing players who would traditionally go a little bit further forward in that position, if that makes sense. City... Yeah. City's system's very fluid anyway, 4-3-3 or 4-2-3-1. Either the two false eights or the double pivot. City are relatively fluid, but the back four we agree, and rough, three at the front. It's neither here or there because City 4-2-3-1's fine, but then I guess it's very interchangeable. Manchester City. And one thing I will say is I'm very reasonable. You've got a tough task here. I'm not trying to be arrogant, but City quite literally are in all four competitions because of the depth of the squad. And we've got players like Aguero who can't get a game really at the moment. So it's difficult. It's difficult to get into this Manchester City side because these are all players of high ability playing at the top of the game. And we've lost 2 games in, I don't know how many, 2 games in like the last 40 or something like that. It's stupid. So it's very good for us.
Yeah, we don't have a similar form over here at Dortmund. We do not. But I mean, we'll do our best. I've done a few of these combined 11s, and like I told Steven before we started, I've never been able to agree with anybody. So we're gonna see what we can do here. We'll start off, and we'll start off with the manager, I guess. And I think we'll probably agree.
Yes.
Pep?
No, it's Guardiola, obviously. I don't think there's anyone really. In my opinion, I would not swap him for anyone in the world. I mean, there's others that are very good, but Guardiola to me is. Well, what Manchester City are these days, we're a super club. Obviously, that means we've got a big budget and we've got the ambition to spend the money and buy the best players. And if you've got that, there's no better coach in the world. He's a master of domestic domination and he's a master of sweeping up trophies. Regardless of what people say, he spends money. There's no one better to do it. And I still maintain that even if he had a smaller budget, he'd still make teams successful on a different level, of course. But I still think he would do because he's too good a coach. He's too natural a good a coach. So I think obviously Guardiola's the answer there. Let's see how Marco Rose gets on next season. But for now, there's no real competition.
No, and I mean, we can give credit to Terzic for coming into this interesting season, trying to steer the ship. But honestly, you can't go against one of the best managers in the world of football and who's won everything. So easy as it is, Pep Guardiola is our manager in our combined 11. We move on to our keeper.
It's Edison for me. I'm sorry, mate. I think Edison's in the top handful of goalkeepers in the world, and he's up there at the very best. Best shot, best expected saves, which is a new stat for me, but I saw that the other day. Best expected saves in the Premier League, and in my opinion, and at least no one could disagree, he's in the top. He's possibly the best passing goalkeeper in the world. If not, there's maybe a handful are better than him, but I would say he is. I think he's freakishly good, and he's only young as well in the grand scheme of things as a goalkeeper. So Edison for me is I'd say he's a no-brainer.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how I'm supposed to fight this, but Hitz and Berkey haven't had the best season. They really haven't. Goalkeeping has been a huge issue with Dortmund for, in my opinion, multiple seasons. Berkey at times can be fantastic, but other times can be very inconsistent. He lost his starting place to a goalkeeper who's been a backup goalkeeper for a few seasons now. So yeah, it's kind of hard to argue with that. So it's Ederson between the sticks, and we move on to right back.
You're not even playing any of your right backs at the moment, are you? Playing Emre Can at the right back. And once again, I'm not trying to be harsh, but I would start both Kyle Walker and Joao Cancelo ahead of any of yours at the moment. But I'm going to say Joao Cancelo because at the moment he's the best right back in the Premier League.
Yeah.
So I don't know what to add to that, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, we knew this best 11 majority was going to have City players in it just because given their form, this hasn't been a great season for Dortmund. Still going to be an interesting debate when we get to specific positions, but like Steven has mentioned, the right back, Thomas Muniz had a relatively underachieving performance all season long. Mirai has had a lot of sparks for us. I'm a big fan of him, but unfortunately not to the level of Cancelo quite yet. And then Emre Can has been a great utility man. Not his best position is right back. He's done it relatively okay for us, but yeah, we got to give it to Cancelo there. 3 up, 3 down for City. We move on to the center backs.
I'm really sorry, but I personally can't see behind the two best centre backs in the Premier League this season, in my personal opinion, which has been Stones and Diaz. But then I feel bad leaving Laporte out. And I know Hummels is good and all that, but I would say age is on against him a little bit here. And once again, I know defensively Dortmund haven't been perfect, this season. I think it's Stones and Diaz, and I think they would be playing as well if they're both at Dortmund.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't watched a ton of City play this year. I have seen a lot of highlights about Ruben Diaz, knowing exactly what he's done to turn this team. But I've heard a lot through social media of how John Stones has kind of really changed his game this season.
It's been those two they're clean sheets of fun. Genuinely, they complement each other so well. You can see, as you were saying earlier, how well they get on, which I think definitely helps because Stones has a rep of being slightly. He can go when he's outside his own head, and I think finally someone he's got a bit of a bromance with him, being honest. Like it just works so well, and they complement each other's game. But then Laporte was absolutely brilliant alongside Diaz as well against Leicester. Leicester, the third best team in the Premier League, and they couldn't get a touch. Against Man City, and Laporte was fantastic. I'm not even mentioned because he's barely played this season, but we've got someone of the quality of Nathan Ake who can't even get anywhere near the team, and he's been injured, to be fair to him, but like City's strength for depth at centre back is it's kind of silly. It really is very, very good, and for me, Stones and Diaz are just that's the one I would choose for a big game right now because there's a chemistry between those two that's just it's invaluable. Like as good as other players are, I think that chemistry is just immense for them.
Yeah, and my only argument would have been because, I'm not given our defensive record this year, it's hard for me to make any type of case. But Matt Hummels is a fantastic player. He's a world-class defender throughout his entire career. In my opinion, at his age and speed always being an issue for him, I think he plays best in kind of a quarterback role in a back three. Yeah. That's the one way I see him.
He's a handsome bastard as well, to be fair.
He is a handsome bastard.
But then so are Stones and Diaz. So they haven't even got that. So he'd fit into. I'd have him as a backup, as an experienced centre defender, but I think it's probably fair to say his best days are, the behind him now, Hummels, aren't they?
Yeah. The most fun I've had watching Hummels this year is he's an excellent passer of the ball outside the foot, long passes. He does it fantastically, but he does it when, like I said, in a back three, when he's got coverage on both sides in case he puts himself in a position to lose the ball. But most of the time he can pick out a pass. But we haven't been playing in a back three, so our defense has been interesting to say the least. So yeah, we'll go Diaz, we'll go Stones, and we roll over to the left back where this is my first fight. I can actually come in here. So Steven, who do you got for left back?
Joe, I'm going to let you have this one. I think Rafael Guerrero. I know you don't even play. I know you played in midfield at the moment, but that's probably one of the reasons why I'll turn around and let you have this one because I'll be honest, I've not watched him, but I know he's one of your better players, and I know he's playing in midfield at the moment. So if he's doing that, it means obviously technically he's capable of doing that, and Pep would be very happy about that. And just because he's a fantastic attacking fullback anyway, I would say City are crying out for an attacking fullback. I love Zinchenko. I think he's been brilliant, and we've already got Cancelo over at right back, so he's not a left back. Mendy's not bad since he came back into the team a couple of games ago, but like I'll give you Guerrero because you're gonna have to have some players somewhere. And to be honest, if he came to Manchester City as someone to rotate with Zinchenko, I'd be very happy with that because he's proven technically adept to play in a variety of kind of like positions. He's shown that already. And I like him. He's a very versatile, very technical, and he can get forward, great chances. So he's not charity. He's a very good player, but I'll let you have this one, I reckon.
No, you've touched on a lot of good points, and I mean Guerrero is when we were playing last season with the back three and having Hakimi and Guerrero as wing backs. That's where you're going to see someone who's so dangerous. He is very technically gifted. He's very. Honestly, in my opinion, his football IQ is sensational. A lot of the times when he plays even a left wing back, he drifts into the midfield, links up play. Excellent finisher of the ball, excellent passer. I personally think as a left back, he's a little bit restricted. We are playing with a 4-back, but he has shown for Portugal he can play in a back four. He's won a Euros with them, so I guess whether it's charity or not, Steven's given us one. But
he's good. He's good. I can't deny it. He's very, very good. So it's one of those things that would make sense. And I'd put it this way: I'd be happy to see him in a City shirt. So I wouldn't be complaining.
All right. We agreed on one. There we are. Guerrero comes in, first Dortmund lad to make the starting 11, and we go into the midfield. So today, like we were talking about, whether it's a 3-man midfield or a 2-3-1. Do you want to start with the two? I guess more defensive ones would be down in the more towards the defenders. However you want to look at it.
This is difficult because I almost can't leave out Rodri because he's been absolutely brilliant this season. He's been at the heart of this Manchester City team. I can't leave him out. But then it's difficult. It's just like I think it's one of those things where I feel like we need to get ahead, like because we all know who's going in that attacking midfield position. There's only one man who goes there. But then, how do I leave out Gundogan, possibly the best player in the Premier League this season? Genuinely, possibly the best player in the Premier League this season. He's been up there. How do I leave out Bernardo Silva? It's one of those things where, like, I can't. But how do I leave out Rodri? Who would you have in midfield first? Go on, I'll let you go for it.
So, I mean, for the Dortmund fans would love it. I mean, Gundogan, fantastic. He's had one of the best seasons in his life. This is the best season in his life times 5. He's doing absolutely fantastic things. The fact that he's got 12 goals is insane from where he's playing. And he's a Dortmund. He's got a lot of love for the club. So it's a nice fit. If I was fighting to try to get a Dortmund player, and I'm not sure how familiar you are with this player, but it's one I actually was able to sneak into another combined 11. It was Dahoud, in the fact that he's a player. Yeah, he was a player who looked to be. And I once said earlier when I had this channel that I think he'd be gone. He just didn't look like any manager would give him a chance. I think he's so technically gifted. I think he's so good on the ball. He's got a low center of gravity, great passer, and he's been a revelation since breaking into this Dortmund squad. But on top of it, again, looking at defensive midfielder, I'm a big fan of Rodri. I watch him a lot at Atletico. I think he's finding his form here at City as well. So, I mean, if you're going to let me and we were going to fight it out, I'd maybe go Gundogan Dahoud. But if not, then I'd probably go for Gundogan and Rodri because we're playing the 4-2-3-1.
I would probably say Gundogan and Rodri is a more proven. Like Dahoud is, I feel like Dahoud's kind of really just kind of not broken through as such, but he's definitely having a breakout year, I would say, in general. Is that fair? It feels like his stock's risen quite a lot recently.
Absolutely.
And I would. He's a little bit. How old is he? Let me just double check.
25.
He's 25. Yeah. So he's a year and a bit older than Rodri, I would say. So it's one of those things where I would say Rodri is currently doing a very similar thing at a higher level, with all due respect to Dahoud. Like Rodri's the fulcrum of a Manchester City side that is been doing sensational things, and Guardiola knows a thing or two about number 6. You know, he literally mastered that role himself. So I would say De Hood is doing very well, but probably needs to prove it a little bit longer to show that level, like, you know, he's reached at the moment is not. But then I guess people could turn around and say the same about Rodri, but I would say Rodri did it a lot in La Liga, you know, and he was brilliant, and he's at the heart of the Spanish midfield as well. And I think De Hood's only really just broken to the German team, hasn't he? What I remember. So I was going to say, based on experience and consistency, I'm going to say Rodri and Gundogan. I'm sorry, mate. That's what I'm going to say. You're telling me, but
Dude is a massive fan favorite here in the channel because he was one of those players who I honestly thought would leave before the season. He ended up staying, was not preferred whatsoever, and then out of absolutely nowhere, he just breaks in and has performance after performance, and he is a technically gifted player.
That's it. I knew he wasn't like seen as a star before this season, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I think there's question marks to see then if you can do it for a second season, you know, and that's probably not unfair. Whereas I would turn around and say Rodri at least has the pedigree to prove. I know last season was indifferent-ish for him, but then City were. But he came with a massive reputation, you know, as one of the possibly. I suppose if you're the Liga journalist when we signed Rodri, and said he was possibly the best midfielder in the league that year, you know, so. Yeah. So I would say Rodri's ahead of him. That's not to say De Hood can't match that, but right now, if you were to ask most managers in the world who they choose for a one-off game, I would guess they choose Rodri because of, I guess he's proven it a little bit more at a higher level, with all due respect. Because I would say La Liga and the Premier League are a higher level, slightly than the Bundesliga. I don't think that's probably an unfair opinion. I know your channel probably disagree with that, but traditionally the two biggest leagues in Europe are the Premier League and La Liga. That's not to say there's not an awful lot of challenge in Bundesliga. Of course there is. I'm not one of those people who puts the Bundesliga down, but I think it's fair to say that most people do lead the Bundesliga for one of those two leagues. So I would say Rodri by default probably has more proof of his pedigree over a longer period of time.
Yeah, hey, for the viewers, we just had to throw De Hood into the situation. We need to show the love.
No, of course. Yeah.
But we did it, and like you said, like De Hood has, in my opinion, been a revelation this season. But we need to see if he can do consistency, because that's always been an issue with him. It's the reason he's never been a starter. I've watched Rodri a lot at Atletico Madrid. I've been a big fan of him. A little disappointed by his first season at City because I thought he was just a perfect fit. Yeah. But like you mentioned, he's
terrible last year. Yeah, I mean, City last year I say terrible. We still finished second with 80 points, but yeah. Next position though, by the way, it has to be Kevin De Bruyne, doesn't it? It just has to be. Yeah, surely.
I mean, yeah. There's not. He's pretty good fight for me. He's a good player. He's a good player.
He's, possibly the best midfielder in the world. If in the top 5 players in the world easily. In my opinion, he's the best player in the Premier League, in my opinion. And he won that award last year as well. And even though he may not be the most informed player in the Premier League right now, I still think in terms of sheer ability, he's freakishly good. Like he does things like. I'm 35 years old, so I've been watching football since the early 90s, since I was a kid, and like it's rare you see a player that does things that you haven't already seen before. And De Bruyne is vast array of passes. It still impresses me, and I grew up watching, the era. Like he impresses me in the same way as the likes of Zidane used to impress me, in terms of what they can do with a ball. And I know he's at Manchester City, and we don't have this global brand in the way that Real Madrid does. But I do feel like if De Bruyne was at a Real Madrid playing in a Galactico era, he'd be looked at in the same way of those players, Zidane's and all that. I think he's that good. I honestly think he's a genius level footballer. And he's proven it every single week, like the passes he plays and how normal he makes them look. He's just insane. Yeah, if anything, City let him down sometimes with the finishing, because he should have 30 assists a season. He should have 30 assists a season, which is I don't think it's unreasonable. Like the chances he creates is just stupid. Yeah, no, and I can't. I mean, my all-time favorite footballer, and everyone on my channel knows this, is Marco Reus. I love him for many different reasons. Loyalty's one. He's a world-class footballer. This season hasn't been a great one for him. So, I mean, he plays as our center attacking mid. He's the real competition in this fight. But unfortunately for my boy, and I have no problem saying it, he's not quite at where De Bruyne is, especially this season. He's absolutely sensational. He sees the field differently. There's no shame in that.
Yeah, and love Royce. I've got to mention him, throw him a little shout out, but unfortunately, just this season, and no Dortmund fan can really put him in the same conversation as Kevin De Bruyne. But Kevin De Bruyne is a cut from a different cloth. He is, and he plays the game differently, sees the game differently, and that's why he is where he is, and City gets on like this. So Yeah, he's our center attacking mid in this beautiful looking formation right now as we go to our wingers. So this is where I think I might fight you on one as well. So who do you got for your two wingers, or do you want me to go first?
The thing is, I understand you fight for one of them because I presume you're going to mention Sancho. Sancho is a fantastic footballer. I was watching him when he made his debut from the under-18s for City's academy sides, and I've been very excited. And I was devastated when he left because I follow the academy sides an awful lot. I would say that Sancho now, and once again, I don't mean to be disrespectful, is trying to take a step in his career to get him to where Phil Foden is right now. So I would say Foden has played a longer game, but is probably now in a better position than Sancho is in terms of his overall career. And I hate to sound really patronising towards Dortmund. I don't mean it, but you're aware of the realities of players wanting to move on to one of the traditionally bigger clubs, I would say. But Sancho's fantastic. But I think if he was at Manchester City right now, he would be starting on the bench initially until he broke into the team. That's how I feel. But we do that with everyone. That's not necessarily a criticism of Sancho. But I mean, he has to get ahead of a guy who scored 30 goals last season in Sterling, or a PFA Player of the Year a couple of years back in Riyad Mahrez, or one of Manchester City's best attackers this season in Phil Foden, and we've not even mentioned Bernardo Silva yet. So it's one of those things where, do I think Sancho would start directly ahead of all of them? Maybe one of them, but if I know some people would take Sancho, but it's difficult because we know he's playing in the middle. We know he's playing in the middle, so we've got two slots there for 5 players. And I don't know how you even leave Bernardo Silva out. Bernardo Silva is freakishly good. And I even feel guilty about leaving Bernardo Silva out in midfield. But at the same time, how do you leave Phil Foden's probably he's had his best performances in big games, like against Liverpool and against Real Madrid and in a cup final, the Carabao Cup, and he's now got into the England team. I would say he's probably even more in favour than Sancho in England. Not that means anything, it's Gareth Southgate, but then Sterling. Sterling's not in form, but Sterling is at his best, one of the best attackers in world football, and Mahrez is ridiculously good. And I guess there's question marks about Sancho is how would we cope in the Premier League for City, for example, with the low block, because teams just put everyone behind the ball. And I've seen a lot of Sancho's goals at Dortmund have followed him. There's a lot of space for him to run into. The league is brilliantly attacking the Bundesliga. It's great fun to watch, but there's definitely more space than you would get for Man City, for example. So there's my caveats for Sancho. A brilliant talent, but I do feel there is. I don't think he's a guarantee to start if he was at Manchester City, for example. I think he'd be one of the many that would have to rotate and find his way into the team. Having said that, he has it. If you were to pick 2 wingers out of all these players I've mentioned, then so Foden's a winger now apparently, which is a thing. Mahrez, Sterling, Bernardo, and Sancho. Who would you pick?
So I mean, you touched on a lot of good points. I saw you posted it on Twitter, so you're preparing for this, and I liked it. And I was reading some of your comments, and like I said, I don't watch a ton of City. I was curious to see the way that Phil Foden's kind of moved along to a winger, but I mean, you watched him a lot more.
I didn't say, by the way, on Twitter, I want to just clarify, I didn't say he was fundamentally a better player. I said I feel like in terms of his progression of his career, he's ahead of him now, and I think that's just fair, given the fact that he's a starter for Manchester City, possibly in the biggest league in the world, with the best team in the world. But not the best team in the world, one of the best teams in the world, So in the biggest league in the world, in the best team in the league, he's a starter for Manchester City pretty regularly. And I do feel that's where Sancho wants to be personally. And we know that because he wanted to go to United last summer. And they're a lesser team than City. So I guess the point I was making on Twitter is that actually now he was behind for a while. Foden's, in my opinion, I don't know I can't prove it on the pitch. I can't prove it. There's no way of possibly proving it. But I would say in terms of career progression, the ability is very even. They're both naturally gifted players, and you could argue about one being better than the other, or whatever. But we'd all agree they're both talented. But in terms of career progression, my point on Twitter was that Foden now is in a better place because he's won a shitload of trophies. His rep around the world is ridiculously high, and I would guess if people were bidding for him now, they'd bid more for Foden than they would for Sancho. That's what I would guess, because you have to. But that's all my point was. And I wasn't saying he's fundamentally a better player. I probably think he is, but that is definitely debatable. I guess I would just say his career progression, he's now moved ahead of Sancho, I would say. That's my personal opinion.
And I don't know if I agree, just because again I don't watch Foden enough, but I do watch Sancho, and I've seen Sancho come into this team as a very youngster and broken in his first little half season there, and then he put up a stupid amount of numbers. He went 12 goals, 14 assists, followed by 17 goals, 16 assists, in which is whatever way you want to put him, one of the best 3 leagues in the world. And he has been absolutely sensational. Last year he was a stretch above, and maybe you can blame his poor start to the season on the fact that he was getting linked away. Like you said, the deal didn't happen. He did have a rough start, but he has been in absolutely sensational form before the injury. He has, in my opinion, he was even ahead of Haaland at one point, just the way that he was playing, the way that he was finding form again, the way that he was showing his passion, the love for the game. And again, I don't watch enough of Phil Foden to be able to put a fair assumption in, but just seeing how young Sancho is.
Very good.
Very good. We're just saying how young
Foden is. Foden's younger, so I would say, by the way, Sterling last season, 31 goals and 10 assists, which is not bad. So he's worth wearing that way. So if you're talking about last season, that's 41 goals and assists in 52 games last season for City.
Yeah,
which is it's just why I raise that point in a poor season. Yeah. And Sterling's like been great form this season, but I'm trying to say, like, yeah, Sterling, we underappreciate Sterling a little bit, and I'm one of your biggest defenders because those numbers are ridiculous. 41 goal or assists in 52 games is genuinely special for allegedly a poor season. So I'm just going to put that out there.
And that's who I was going to go with. If you were going to ask me right then, there, cut to the chase, I was going to put Sterling and I was going to put Sancho. Sancho for the romantic fact that we're doing a combined 11. He played for both teams, similar to Gundogan. And I personally do think that I know you said about the progression, but I just think the way that this kid plays, I think that it would be hard. I know City's got so much depth in the wing area, but any other Premier League team, in my opinion, I think he could walk into that starting 11 just the way that he's playing. He's still in a poor season this year. He's got 6 goals, 9 assists. He's just so valuable, and you can see what it means to Dortmund when you take him out. He was in completely fantastic form. He unfortunately picked up a bad injury at a wrong time, and with that, we've been lost. Haaland's been quiet. There's been no link-up play up top, and any goal that we've really scored has been created specifically just by Erling Haaland. And I have 2 Dortmund team players in right now, so come on. No.
I'm not going to agree with you. Ultimately, if there's graphics on screen, you can put them on there, so you can.
There we go.
But I couldn't, in good faith. I would have to find a way to not play a player who doesn't even play in the wing at the moment in this team if I had to, because I'd have to put Bernardo in there somewhere, knowing that who's going to go through the middle. And I just love Phil Foden. I'm obsessed with him, so I'd have to disagree and go for that. You're entitled to disagree, and if Sancho was at Man City playing regularly, I'd be very happy. That's all I'll say. But at the same time, Mahrez has been brilliant this season, and Mahrez would be starting for you if he played for you, and you know he would. So it's one of those things where Mahrez is on his day, he's a world-class talent, like genuinely world-class, and he does special things, and he's inconsistent every now and then, but he's also incredible every now and then, so I just
it's a polite debate here. It's a very polite debate.
But it's one of those things that I just don't know. It's tough because I've not seen Sancho how he'd have to deal with. I would say Sancho looks a bit muted when he plays for England, which is, I'm not sure how much you can read into that, but he definitely looks a little bit quiet when he plays for England, which is interesting. I would, if you're asking me right now to choose, I had to choose 2 out of those players in a heartbeat. I would choose, for me, I would choose Foden and Bernardo because I'd want Bernardo in midfield, but if he's not there, Bernardo because he's relentless energy, and I think Bernardo is a world-class footballer with everything to his game. I'd probably put him in midfield if I had to, alongside Gundogan or something like that, with Gundogan as number 6 if I had to. But I would say Bernardo and Foden because once again, relentless energy and incredible game thing. But then if you want Sancho, then that I wouldn't blame you. So I'll let you make the final call because I've laid my points out quite clearly. So anyone watching knows exactly how I feel about that.
Yeah, they can put the comments below to see what they go with, and I guess he's leaving it to me. So we might get producer Chi to do 2 graphics, but I was gonna go with to make it a little bit easier. I was gonna go with Sterling and Sancho, but maybe I throw in Bernardo Silva in there along with Sancho, or maybe Foden. I don't know. Sancho for me is in, and then you take another pick. Okay, and then
front though, it's the front. There's no real question really. It has to be Gabriel Jesus. No, I'm kidding. It has to be Haaland. It has to be because he's what we want. It's what Man City want. And I'm hoping that's possible because Haaland linking up with Foden the better version of Sancho. I'm joking. Haaland linking up with Foden and Bernardo and De Bruyne and so on to me is just, it's silly. It's absolutely silly. And I think that I hope he thinks the same thing as well, because the chances that De Bruyne would create for someone like Haaland would just be, he's looking at 40 goals a season in the not just, the camera's just gone off. Sorry.
No, that's all right.
That's all right. My camera went off. I've switched over to a webcam. That should be fine. We'll carry on. No one even noticed. He's looking at 40 goals a season in the Premier League with that kind of assist, in my opinion, if you played every game. So Haaland, I can't argue. Haaland's brilliant.
Yeah. I mean, there's not much to debate, but I'm glad that Steven came on here to, just be like, yeah, he might join us. So you Dortmund fans out there gotta deal with that one day. But yeah, no, I agree. It's Haaland, and I mean, he's being linked to City right now, so Steven's got all smiles while Josh is a little bit sad. But I think that's a pretty good looking starting 11, Steven. Besides like the winger, whenever we get producer T to figure out what we do there, but I think we did pretty good. What do you think?
Yeah, it's a good team. I mean, some people watching, City fans, would say I've been very generous, because realistically, if I was being really brutal, I would probably only give you Guerrero and Haaland. Which I think is all we disagreed on. I would say Sancho still has, as much as he is, I would still say he has a little bit to prove. That's my personal opinion. But I think that's the same as when, anyone. But I guess it depends. Prove at what level, I guess, is the point, really. That's the big, deep question, And I would say, the reason I would say prove is because Sancho, in my opinion, you might disagree, wants to be in another league. He kind of made that clear, in my opinion, over the summer. And based on that, therefore, he wants to, by his own intentions, I think he wants to be somewhere else. And I would say he still has something to prove wherever that somewhere else is going to be. So that's why I would say I don't have any question marks about it. Whereas I would say for Foden, for example, he's currently playing in the league that I think Sancho wants to be in. And he's been one of Manchester City's best players in the best team in the league. So that's why I would turn around and say there's a bit of Sancho to prove still, but I'm just waffling now anyway. Either way, you've got some very good players, man. What I think I would say about Dortmund, by the way, is like Dortmund are brilliant, but they're all players, because this is what Dortmund did. They're all players of potential still, like Bellingham, fantastic. Reina, fantastic. Sancho, fantastic. Haaland, I mean, some are further ahead in their careers than others, but it's all about, it seems like a lot of potential, doesn't it? And we've seen obviously this season, Dortmund, the trappings of youth has caught them, hasn't it? You've got a young team. You're going to have the odd season where that inexperience costs you. And I think it has this season, because you've got a battle to get in the Champions League, and that's a tragedy for Dortmund. You're too good to that. But I would say that shows exactly why some of these young players, why, as good as they are, they've got a lot to answer still, because they are young and there is consistency. So good, very good team, and you won't be surprised if you beat us. But they're City right now with the real deal, and that's the difference, I guess.
Yeah, no, you nailed it. Young team. We've had a young team for a while. Love developing players, and sometimes with young players, you have a little bit of inconsistency. And you said it best. It's a tragedy. And if we don't get into top four, this team may blow up over the summer, and it may look very, very different under Marco Rosa for next season. But yeah, I mean, we almost agreed on a combined 11, but good thing that we're in control of the graphics, so we will be able to make the decision we really want to here. But Steven, man, I really appreciate you coming on the channel. It was a lot of fun doing this best 11 with you. And is there anything else you want to say before you head on out?
No, it's good, man. I would say hopefully the best team wins. That works for me. But either way, it's going to be a good game. Thank you so much, man.
All right. Cheers, my man. Talk to you soon, and I hope you guys enjoyed this. Leave a like, sub if you're new, and we'll talk to you soon.